Good morning, everyone. I hope that you can hear me. All right, good morning, everyone, again. I don't know whether we are all here. Probably we could wait for a few more minutes. I can see lots of attendees from Turkey. I can also see Kevin from Spain, but I'm not sure whether we are all online. So I think that we should wait for a couple of minutes. Just let me know. Please confirm whether you can hear me. You can write down.
Yeah, I can hear you.
In chat. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Kevin. So waiting for a couple of minutes and we will begin shortly. All right, I think that we should begin. Gamze or any of the coordinators, please confirm if this is okay. So we're not late because I said yesterday that I'm expecting it to last 1 hour at most, but I think it will last 30 to 40 minutes at most. Okay, perfect. So good morning, everyone. Good morning from Greece. Today we are going to we're going to present the education on environmental stories in Greek mythology in general. And for this reason, please let me share my screen with you. Give me a minute. All right. Now, I don't know whether it shows. Can you see the presentation? Is it okay? Because now it is in full screen, so I cannot check the chat. So just let me know if everything looks fine. I guess it does, right?
Yeah, now it appeared, yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm pretty sure that everyone has heard of what mythology is, and everyone has heard about Greek mythology. And in fact, it was a way for people of the ancient world to understand, to realize, to perceive concepts better in, let's say, an easier way, by creating stories, by personifying, let's say, some natural phenomena. The truth is that um, ancient people showed great respect for the nature and the environment, and considered nature and its elements as something very difficult to fully conceive at that moment. So nature was, in a way, believed to provide everything to humanity, especially when human beings treated the environment with respect and cared about it. However, the mythic portrayal of nature is not always pleasant, precisely because the natural world is often used as harsh. So, on the other hand, nature indicated its, let's say, dissatisfaction in a more punitive approach. For example, uh, could you please turn your microphone off? Please turn your microphones off because I can hear some noise. So nature indicated its dissatisfaction, as I was saying, in a more punitive approach. For example, in the form of severe weather conditions or even natural destructions. And people back then thought that this was because of their, let's say, illegal behavior or disobedient for something that they have done. So nature was also seen as divine. As you can see uh, in the hymn of Orpheus that I have added to this slide, this hymn is called "To Nature," is described as divine, and I would like you to pay attention to the highlighted words, um, in which nature is described as all parent. So it was, let's say, the creator of everything, divine, the mother of everything, the venerable queen. There was no father, so the nature itself was responsible for every person, every plant, everything that existed on the earth, and it was also immortal and providence. So back then, to be honest, people weren't really aware of the destruction that they could cause on the earth. So this is why probably they used the word immortal. They couldn't imagine how they could harm it because they didn't. In fact, they respected it, and not only did they respect it, but also thought of it very highly. Now, the myth was a way to explain the unexplainable. Through the century, humans, we can say that, always appealed to the spiritual or the divine when they needed help or some kind of support. So ancient Greeks always considered themselves well evolved in terms of the arts and philosophy. And for what we said previously, they had their gods for that. They always appealed to the gods when they needed support, when they needed help for something that they could not do by themselves. And in ancient Greek mythology, gods shared lots of similar character traits with human beings. In fact, they were humans themselves, they were personified. They tried to explain the unexplainable at the time, forces of nature, weather, and astronomy, and also many ancient Greek gods and goddesses were elements of weather and seasons in the form of a human being. In other words, what can be said about the Greek mythological belief system is that the gods do not really represent or symbolize elements of our world, but they were our world themselves. Now, it was not only the gods, but even natural landscapes were very important for ancient people. Mountains were very highly revered in world mythology for the grandiose effect that they had on human imagination. So, in various ancient cultures, not only the Greek one, um, their gods, their divine, their divine resided atop of high mountain peaks, just like the Greek Mount Olympus, which was considered the home of the Olympian pantheon. So, uh, as you have probably already heard, Mount Olympus is the highest mountain in Greece, and it was considered to be the dwelling place of the gods. Um, in fact, people gave great importance to natural landscapes that evoked their admiration. So back then, it was not easy for people to reach higher points at Olympus, and this is why they thought that the gods, the 12 Olympian gods, uh, dwelled the mountain, the peak of the mountain, the highest point of it. So, moreover, nature was respected, and Mount Olympus was also full of various natural elements. And it was not only mountains, but even caves were also respected, not only in ancient Greece, but other ancient culture as well. And very often caves signified, the entrance to the underworld. Uh, they were also thought to be the womb of the earth. And caves to many civilizations, ancient Greece included, were considered sacred. And priestesses, for example, of the Minoan culture, which was a culture that lived in Crete, would conduct their sacred rituals within caves. In fact, the worship of caves in Crete has been documented, and there have been many findings related to rituals taking place there. Now, um, caves were also considered as undiscovered places of the earth, and many times were thought to be hiding mysteries of our world. Now, we didn't only have the 12 Olympian gods before them. We had the primordial gods, and Gaia was one of them. In fact, Gaia is represented as Mother Earth, and as such, she was the great goddess. She was worshipped for centuries, especially by agriculturally dependent communities. And the Neolithic people of Greece drew a connection between a woman's ability to give birth to children and the earth's ability to give birth to all plants. So she was considered as the mother of all life, a goddess who, in fact, was, let's say, the earth itself. Um, she was also responsible for the creation of all the natural environment. So, therefore, the earth spirit was feminine, and the principal divinities that the early Greeks worshipped were also feminine. So, according to Hesiod, Gaia brought forth her equal Uranus, which is the heaven or the sky, to cover her on every side. And Gaia, along with Uranus, let's say, gave birth to all life existing on our Earth. So she was also the mother of the mountains, and also the mother of Pontus, which was the primordial god of the sea, as we will see in a while. So Pontus is not uh, the same thing as Poseidon. I'm pretty sure that you are more aware of Poseidon, but not Pontus. So Pontus was the primordial god of the sea. And according to the myth, he was the sea himself, not merely its, resident deity who was born from earth at the dawn of creation. So he was the father of fish and every other sea creature. And Poseidon, who was a member of the 12 Olympian gods, was later married to Pontus' eldest granddaughter, whose name was Amphitrite. Now, these were the primordial gods, but the most popular, let's say, of the Greek gods were the 12 Olympian gods. And as you can see, I have created a list with all of them. And I have also highlighted some of their properties, let's say. Many of these gods are related to natural phenomena. Many of these gods, let's say, are linked to the environment and the nature. So Zeus, who was the king of the 12 Olympian gods and the ruler of Mount Olympus, was also god of the sky, lightning, and thunder. And we will see how he affected weather conditions based on his mood. Poseidon was god of the sea, god of the water, storms, hurricanes, earthquakes, and we will also see in a while how a myth connected the sea to the land. Demeter was a goddess of the harvest, fertility, agriculture, nature, and the seasons. And she was one of the most worshipped goddesses in ancient Greece, and probably one of the most popular myths is related to Demeter, something that we will analyze in a while. Apollo was god of light and the sun. Artemis, she was the goddess of the hunt and the wilderness, because animals had a very, very respectful, let's say, they were very, very respected in the ancient world. Even Hephaestus was the god of volcanoes. And of course, Dionysus was the god of wine and the grapevine. So you can see that there are many links of these 12 gods to natural elements. And it was a way for ancient people to, let's say, to ask for help, to ask for support from these specific gods when when they had to deal with a natural disaster. And this is why they were worshiping. They used to worship these gods because they wanted, let's say, to live in peace. Now, starting with Zeus, probably the most popular of the 12 Olympian gods, and it's quite expected because he was the king of them. He was also the god of the sky, weather, law and order, destiny, fate, and kingship. So most of us have seen pictures with his most distinctive attribute, which was his stylized lightning bolt, which he yielded in his hand like a javelin. And as I've said, based on his mood, and there were severe weather conditions, such as lightnings, and these weather conditions were interpreted as his anger for specific, probably illegal actions by humans, or even disobedience by not only humans, by other gods, but also other gods as well. Now, Poseidon was the god of the sea, the god of the rivers, floods, droughts, and earthquakes. In fact, he was related. He was mostly related to the aquatic environment. So he's not the same god as Pontus, the one that we saw earlier. He is distinguished from Pontus. Pontus was a primordial god, and Poseidon ruled one of the three realms of the universe as king of the sea and the water. And he was also very closely associated with fish and all other marine creatures. So, as the god of earthquakes, was also connected to dry land. So Poseidon, we can say, was the link between uh, the aquatic environment and the land. Now, moving on to Artemis. Artemis was the goddess of the hunt, the wilderness, wild animals, nature, vegetation, childbirth, care of children, and chastity. So she was said that she would roam the forest of Greece, and she was always accompanied by lots of animals. She was responsible for protecting the woods. This was the mission that she had received from Zeus, according to the myth. And she was able to travel almost immediately to every corner of the forests, fields, rivers, and even valleys. So the Greek myths of the goddess Artemis also saw her often as a representation of nature, sometimes in its harsher aspects. So some of the myths portray Artemis as kind. For example, the myth of Agamemnon, when he attempts to sacrifice his own daughter, Iphigenia, to gain the approval of Artemis and in the Trojan War. But Artemis, after seeing that, without Agamemnon knowing, she sweeps in and mystically replaces his daughter Iphigenia with a lamb. So Artemis is believed to also be one of the best representations of the Greek Olympian pantheon of the Neolithic Mother Earth goddess. So in other words, she's a great representation of the nature who can sometimes be harsh towards people, making their lives, difficult at many points, but always providing the goods to help them go on with their life, just like our nature does, and just like our Earth, our planet does. So now talking about Artemis, we should also state that there was great respect towards the animals. Although some animals were sacrificed, all of them were thought to be sacred. And Herodotus wrote that all animals, no matter if they were wild or tame, are without exception held to be sacred. And this view is understood when paired with the portrayal of many Greek divinities who were mythically transformed, who were mythically transforming into animal figures whenever they wanted. So Zeus used to become a ram, a male sheep, or transform into a bull, a swan, or an eagle. Artemis was also said to change into a cat. Poseidon was often connected to animals as well, and most often he transformed into the bull, and the horse. So regarding Poseidon, um, this transformation saw him as deeply connected to the natural world, not only through his obvious connection as god of the sea, but also by his connection to plant life. So we say that he was a god of the water, but there were myths that he was also sometimes connected with Demeter. And Demeter was, we will see in a while who Demeter was. Demeter was the goddess of agriculture, okay, and the goddess of the harvest. So their connection, which let's say mythically occurred while both were those of earth with water. So this indicates the crucial role of this combination in the creation of life. And talking about Demeter, she was, as I've said, one of the most worshipped and loved goddesses in the ancient world. She was the goddess of the harvest and agriculture. She was also responsible for the crops, the grains, food, and the fertility on the earth. In fact, she was responsible for life itself. And this is why her role was very, very crucial for humanity in ancient Greece. So she was considered to be the core mother, the goddess of cereals, who provides grain for bread and blesses its harvesters. So her greatest gifts to humankind were agriculture, and particularly that of cereals. Now, she was Persephone's mother, who was kidnapped by Hades, and we will move on to probably the most important and popular myth regarding nature. But before that, uh, I would like to stress something. Some slides before we referred to Gaia. So Gaia was Mother Earth. She was the great goddess, and as we have seen, the primary Mother Earth goddess was divided up into many mythic representations after some years. So Gaia was the primordial goddess of life, but then we have more female goddesses. Um, in dividing, let's say, one goddess into several less dominant goddesses, her power lessened and could be also mythically guarded, let's say, by other male members of a given pantheon. So, for example, in the pantheon of the 12 Olympian gods, we meet the goddesses Athena, Artemis, Demeter, Hera, who was the woman of Zeus, and Aphrodite. And they are perceived as representing parts of an earlier Mother Earth goddess. So when looking at the many representation of goddesses within pantheons, one can see, remnants of the power the central mother goddess once was believed to possess. It was, let's say, by separating the powers of a single super powerful goddess, people of that era managed to realize more easily different natural concepts. And they also managed to worship them separately and and be even more respectful. So they knew to whom they should address for every need they had. Now, as I said, returning to Demeter and her daughter Persephone. Persephone was abducted by Hades. So Hades was the king of the underworld, and he was looking um, for a queen, for a wife. So he got through, and he abducted her one day while she was picking up flowers. So the Greek myth of Persephone and Demeter is probably the most renowned myth related to nature. In fact, if we think about it, Persephone is the daughter of the goddess of the harvest, and as Demeter's offspring, it is clear that Persephone is connected to nature and its cycles. So now we have a clear reference to seasons. Well, the myth starts, as I've said, with Persephone in nature picking flowers when she's abducted by Hades, and she's depicted as picking these flowers in the springtime as a reminder of her mythic connection to nature. So when abducted, Persephone was in nature. She was, let's say, connected to the natural environment. So there can be no flowers without death. This is the meaning that the myth wants to pass on. And as it is spring while picking flowers, this fact of nature becomes actualized through her role in the myth. Um, Persephone is a symbol herself, and she must go to the underworld by being kidnapped by Hades. So, in other words, she has to die, because when you go to the underworld, you actually die. And after dying, regrowth is possible. For this abduction, according to the myth, Zeus gave consent, although he was very concerned about Demeter's reaction. And he was concerned for a very good reason, because Demeter was devastated by the loss of her daughter, and she started searching the land for her. So when Demeter is told her daughter's abduction, she hides herself within a cave, refusing to allow the crops to grow. So as a result, crops and plants all over the world began to die. And this was a result of serious droughts, leading to a barren ground. So after some time, the Olympians, the 12 gods, hearing the plight of the starving people, they tried to call Demeter out of the cave by assuring her that Persephone may return to the land of the living on the one condition that she has not eaten the food of the dead. According to the myth, when someone visits the underworld, if they eat the food of the dead, which in this case was a pomegranate, then they cannot return to the world of the living. So Persephone did eat the seed of the pomegranate while in the underworld. So the myth concludes with its, let's say, cyclical obligations. There was a compromise between Demeter and Hades. So the compromise was that Persephone must remain in Hades part of the year, and she can ascend to the realm of her mother and abounding life for the other half. So if we think of that, it becomes clear that Persephone, as the maiden offspring of the harvest goddess, she represents the cycles of nature. Persephone is the seed, and Just like the seed still went into the underworld, deep into the ground, so that she can annually be reborn and blossom. Um, this representation of the goddess that seeks out a lost, deceased loved one is a common theme in world myth. It is not only part of the Greek mythology. So this concept um, of searching out, the dead person, the lost person, requires time, and mythically it is portrayed as connecting the progression of the seasons. New life takes time to emerge, takes time to, let's say, to blossom, and the goddess inserting high and low throughout the land is representative of the time of seasonal dormancy, or in other words, the seasonal, let's say, inactivity. This is how ancient people uh, managed to explain the cycle of the seasons. So we can say that Persephone was a maiden, first of all, and the mythic maiden often represents a tie to nature. They serve as representations of springtime. Taking away by force, a mythic maiden disrupts the natural order. And once this symbolic representation of the myth, of spring, is forcefully stopped within myth, a transition occurs, like that witnessed in the change of seasons. So, just like the myth of Persephone, every other similar myth portrays a period of drought and decay once the spring-like maiden, in our case Persephone, is separated from her mother. So this, let's say, story, this myth, was celebrated in the Eleusinian mysteries. Eleusinian mysteries was probably one of the most important celebrations that were held every year in ancient Greece. And they centered on the myth of Persephone and Demeter and were considered sacred because they taught the participants to connect the lesson of the myth to their mortal lives. So Demeter was one of the main deities of Eleusinian mysteries, and their celebration centered around the search for and reunion with her daughter, something that symbolized not only the rebirth of crops in spring, but also the rebirth of the participants after death. This is something that people in goes on in the underworld as well. And uh, the truth is, and mysteries consistently preserved from antiquity, and most of them were not allowed to be written down. And uh, everyone and everything, the topic of the mysteries, the let's say the what we have to learn from these mysteries is that everyone and everything follows the same seasonal pattern in their own lifetimes. And just like the myth of Persephone and Demeter, which included the young maiden Persephone, the mother Demeter, who was a middle-aged woman. This is how she was represented. This is how Demeter was depicted. And the old Hecate, who was another Greek goddess who helped Demeter find her daughter. This is how every person will follow the same seasonal pattern in their own lifetimes. And if they accept that, they can find solace in the regenerative, let's say, aspect of the cycle, because Persephone never truly dies, and if they accept, let's say, this cycle, they will be they will be able to live in a way forever. So senior mysteries briefly have to show you. So that was it for the Greek mythology and how some of the myths are connected to the environment. I don't know whether you have any questions, whether you would like to comment on what has been presented. We still have some time.
Thank you, Mike.
So
Mike, it was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
all
you
your
for being here.
contribution.
Thank you for attending. And I hope you found it interesting.
Yeah, because our school, all the students were in the meeting and they were all listening to you. Thank you very much, because we opened the link in the classes, so it was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you very much for your really valuable contributions.
Thank you for being here, everyone.
Thank you.
So enjoy the rest of the day. Have a very, very nice morning. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.